They stuck me by the kitchen. That's where I sat, watching my son get married through a swinging door, hiding behind a tray of shrimp cocktail. I paid for everything, the flowers, the chairs, the band, but when the music started and the toasts rolled in, I wasn't anywhere near it. I smiled politely, stayed quiet, and when the last bite of cake was served, I burned it all down with one quiet phone call. If this story finds you, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. There was no sign, no card, no nameplate. Just a folding chair with a crumpled napkin tossed across the seat. That was my spot, wedged between a stack of dirty trays and a rusty cart with a wheel that squeaked every time someone shoved it forward. I stood there for a few seconds, blinking hard. The smell of marinara sauce hung thick in the air, clinging to the steam rising from the kitchen doors. The heat from the ovens pressed against my back and something deep inside me curled into a knot. I looked down at my dress, soft mauve chiffon hand-sewn with care. I'd spent 3 hours at the salon that morning, pretending this day would be just as special for me as it was for them. But no one told me the truth. No one said, "Hey Linda, we made other arrangements." No one even looked my way when I arrived. Not even Jason. He was too busy flashing that big smile, adjusting his cuff links, letting her mother kiss him on the cheek like she was the one who stayed up all night during his night terrors. Like she took double shifts so he could get braces, when I could barely afford rent and his smile at the same time. I held tight to my small beige leather handbag, the one he bought me years ago for Mother's Day back when he still called me Mama. My hands trembled, that kind of shake you feel in your wrists like static electricity searching for a way out through your fingertips. The catering manager, he couldn't have been older than 20, smiled awkwardly. They said you're supposed to wait back here, ma'am. The bride didn't want, any visual clashes with the theme. I stared at him. Theme. He flinched, glancing toward the kitchen door. It swung open again with a loud bang, revealing laughter, golden lights, and the swirl of a perfect celebration. You know, for the photos, and the whole aesthetic. I sat down slowly. The chair gave a pitiful creak. Beneath my feet the floor was stained, gravy maybe, and my shoes stuck slightly every time I shifted them. I glanced at my nails, fresh pink polish. Then at the cold chicken breast someone had plopped onto a chipped plate in front of me. And the worst part? I didn't say a word. Not one. Because it was his day. Because I told myself, don't ruin this for him. Don't be that mom. Because I paid for it all and deep down I still believed that meant something. I reached into my purse and pulled out the ceremony program they handed out at the church. Elegant cursive on thick cream paper. Not one mention of me. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her mother gave the first toast. I was just the wallet, the ghost in the back, the woman they didn't want ruining the photos. The door swung open again. I caught a glimpse of the chandelier, the band warming up, Jason and Brooke spinning under golden light. He didn't even glance my way. I pressed a napkin to my lips, pretending to blot a non-existent stain. My eyes burned. I told myself it was the onions, the steam, the heat. Not the betrayal. But it was. God, it was. And somewhere in me something cracked, quietly like the hairline in a wine glass you don't see until it shatters. I stared at the wall. There was peeling paint behind a fire extinguisher and I locked onto it like a lifeline. That spot kept me from falling apart in front of a waiter carrying crab puffs. Because I knew if I started crying, I might never stop. I took a breath. Then another. The chicken stayed untouched. Later someone brought dessert. I didn't eat it. Just stared at the gold and white layers. Her colors. Her dream. Her everything. And then I made the call. It was quick. No explanation. 3 simple cancellations. The brunch flowers, the second half of the band's payment, and the open bar that was supposed to run till midnight. My voice was steady, quiet, calm, in control. When I hung up, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sorry. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. I looked down at my hands. The tremble was gone. My heart no longer raced. Just a low, steady hum, like an engine turning over after a long winter. The door swung again. Laughter, lights, people toasting without me. Let them. I had plans of my own now. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I lay in that stiff hotel bed in my dress, staring up at the ceiling fan, watching it spin like it might fly off and crush me. Part of me hoped it would. I could still smell kitchen grease in my hair. Roses and sweat and shame clung to me like a second skin. Somewhere around 4 a.m. I sat up. The red glow of the digital clock blinked beside me. My phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. I already knew, missed calls from Jason, from Brooke, a text from my niece that said, "What happened?" Everyone's freaking out. I opened the wedding budget spreadsheet on my tablet. I'd kept track of every penny for over a year. I knew each cent, every upgrade, every ridiculous indulgence Brooke insisted on with her tight smile and her favorite word, elevated. "Linda, we just want something a little more elevated." That's how I ended up agreeing to hand-calligraphed invitations from some Etsy artist in Oregon. That's how we went from the local church hall to a refurbished barn with chandeliers and whiskey barrels. That's how the open bar got a custom cocktail menu, and the cake went from 2 layers to 5. I paid for it all. Not a dime from Jason. Not a cent from her parents. And I never asked. Because I wanted him to have what I never could give when I was raising him. I scrolled through the charges. Then I saw them. 2 transactions I hadn't authorized. A bar tab from a tasting event. A fancy rehearsal dinner upgrade. Same restaurant where they shoved me near the kitchen. Again. My stomach clenched. I double-checked the card. It was mine. Used without my permission. Then I saw the note Brooke left on Zelle for one of her bridesmaids. His mom's covering everything. Might as well go big. Wedding vibes. I didn't cry. Not this time. I felt nothing. That strange, heavy emptiness always comes after too much hurt. Like something inside me had gone numb. Like my nerves had curled up and retreated, trying to protect whatever was left. I reached for the lamp and turned it on. The light stung my eyes. I stood, walked over to the dresser mirror, and for a moment I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. Smudged mascara under my eyes. The soft curve of my mouth hardened into something unfamiliar. My hair was limp, flattened on one side from the pillow. I looked like I'd aged a decade in one night. But then something shifted. I ran a brush through my hair, washed my face, and sat down at the small desk by the window. I opened my laptop and started typing. 3 emails, each short, polite, and final. 1 to the florist. Please cancel Sunday's delivery. The remaining balance will not be processed. Thank you. 1 to the band. Due to changes in the event schedule, the second performance is no longer required. Please consider the matter closed. And 1 to the bar vendor. We're scaling back post-reception services. Cancel the second shift. Do not charge the outstanding balance. It was nearly dawn when I pressed send. The sky outside shifted from black to a bruised, early blue. I closed the laptop, sat back on the bed, and just listened to the quiet hum of the hotel air conditioning. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was finished. Done being convenient. Done being the wallet. Done being invisible. Let them deal with it now. Let them scramble when the flowers didn't show, when the music stopped early, when the bar ran dry before dessert. Let them wonder. Maybe, just maybe, they'd remember who made that wedding possible in the first place. The woman in the kitchen. The one they didn't want in the pictures. The music had echoed through the kitchen walls all evening, like a heartbeat I wasn't part of. I sat in that folding chair with a paper plate of cold appetizers and a warm Diet Coke from the catering cooler, trying not to hear, but I couldn't help it. Every cheer, every clink of a glass, every laugh, they all slipped through the swinging door like reminders of where I wasn't. Someone gave a toast. Sounded like a man, probably Brooke's father or maybe Jason's best man. I leaned back just enough to peek through the gap in the door. There they were, posing under that ridiculous floral arch I paid Trevor for. Gold chairs, floating candles, and a custom neon sign that read, "The future is forever," in curly pink script. I recognized the voices even when I couldn't see their faces. Karen, Brooke's mother, with that fake sweet tone she always used. "Oh my God, Jason, you are just the sweetest man alive. Brooke is so lucky." Then laughter. Loud, theatrical. My eyes locked on the head table. There she was, Karen, draped in navy chiffon and pearls, acting like she came from old money, when she hadn't even offered to split the costs. She'd only met me 3 times. Never once asked about my life. Never said thank you. Next to her was Tom, Brooke's father, booming with laughter like a king at his court. The same man who, at the rehearsal dinner, told me, "We really admire your perseverance. Raising Jason alone all those years. That must have been tough." Perseverance? As if I'd gone on a scenic hike instead of working 16-hour shifts in scrubs to keep him fed, clothed, and out of hand-me-downs. And then there was Jason. My Jason. Sitting between her parents, smiling like he'd always belonged to them. I scanned the crowd for someone, anyone on my side. I spotted my sister Patricia, 2 rows back with our cousin Melissa. Neither looked toward the kitchen. No one did. I wasn't part of the celebration. I was a logistical issue solved with a chair and a closed door. A young server brushed past me, a college-aged girl with a nervous smile. She glanced at my plate. "Do you want, a refill or something?" I shook my head and said, "I'm fine." But I wasn't. God, I wasn't. My whole body ached. My jaw was clenched so tight it throbbed behind my eyes. My heart felt like something rotten stuck in my chest and refusing to move. I looked down at my plate. 3 olives, a slice of brie, and a sad little triangle of toast. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, but I couldn't force anything down. My stomach was knotted, my throat too tight to swallow. Weeks ago, I'd asked Brooke gently, "Have you figured out where I'll be sitting?" She'd smiled that bright, strained smile. "We're still finalizing everything. Don't worry, Linda. You'll be included." I should have known. I did know. Somewhere inside, I knew I was being managed, moved around like a photo prop. Invited for my checkbook, tolerated for the image, but never wanted. Not really. And the worst part? I agreed to all of it. I let them take away my voice piece by piece. No speech, no mother-son dance, no pictures before the ceremony. Not even a mention in the program. Just a chair by the kitchen. Then I heard Jason's laugh. That deep, rolling laugh he had as a kid when I used to chase him through sprinklers in our backyard. I hadn't heard him laugh like that at me in years. Something swelled in my chest. Not grief. Not sadness. Rage. Quiet. Focused. Unforgiving. I stood and walked to the swinging door. Pressed my hand to the edge and pushed just enough to see inside again. I locked eyes with Brooke. She saw me. She knew exactly where I was. She knew what she had done. And she smiled. Not sheepishly, not nervously, confidently. Like she was proud of it. Like it was natural. Like I was right where I was supposed to be. Then she turned back to her bridesmaids, tossed her head and laughed. And that was the moment I understood. This wasn't some oversight. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. It was intentional. She didn't want me there. And Jason had let her. They both had. And something inside me shifted. Not broke, no, not this time. Realigned. My place in their lives had changed and I was done pretending otherwise. Let them have their spotlight. Let them pop their champagne. They thought I was invisible. They had no idea what I could take away. The toast was still going as I stood by the kitchen door. Someone had dimmed the lights in the reception hall. String lights glowed overhead. Gold chargers sparkled on the tables. The mic squealed once, then Tom's voice boomed like a game show host. To our daughter Brooke and her perfect new husband Jason. Applause. I stepped back. The kitchen behind me buzzed with chaos. Trays slammed. Someone shouted about a gluten-free plate at table 12. I leaned against the wall. The plaster was cold. The air smelled like garlic oil and resentment. And from the other side of that door Tom kept going. When Brooke was little, she told us she wanted a fairy tale. A prince, a castle, a happy ending. Well, sweetheart, today you got it. More cheers. More applause. My breath caught. Because he wasn't there when Jason was little. Not once. He never saw me mop vomit off the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. Never watched me sew buttons back on his school uniform or drive through ice storms to get him to a chess tournament. But today they rewrote the story and I was written out. I looked down at my hands again, the skin thin and blotchy, my fingers trembling slightly in the draft from the cold air vent overhead. Then it was Karen's turn to speak. Her voice was thick, sugary, practiced. We're so grateful to be surrounded by so many people who love Brooke and Jason. And to welcome Jason into our family, he already feels like a second son to us. Another round of applause. Like a second son. But not a word about me. No, thank you Linda for everything. No, we appreciate your generosity. Not even a quiet nod of acknowledgement. Just silence. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. My feet ached, but I refused to sit. Then came the part I'd been dreading most, the groom's speech. Jason stepped up to the mic, tall and confident in the tailored suit I helped pay for. I had watched him take his first breath in the NICU. And now here he was, a grown man glowing under the lights, and a stranger to me. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," he said, voice deeper than I remembered, polished like he'd been practicing in front of a mirror. "Brooke, you've made me the happiest man alive. To your family, thank you for welcoming me as your own. I truly feel at home with you all. And to everyone who helped make this day happen, thank you. It's been the most incredible day of our lives." My name wasn't mentioned. Not once. I had paid for the venue, the caterers, the DJ, the photographer, the linens, even that neon sign hanging behind them. I paid for the dress Brooke wore. And yet, I didn't exist. The servers clapped. The band started back up. Someone brought me a slice of cake on a plastic plate. Vanilla with raspberry filling. Her favorite. I've never liked raspberry. Still don't. I stared at the thin gold fork. My hand was steady now. I remembered when Jason turned 10 and asked for chocolate cake with sprinkles. I picked up 2 extra shifts just to buy the one he'd pointed to in that bakery window. The way he hugged me when he saw it, that boy was gone. Replaced by a man who forgot to save his own mother a chair. I set the cake aside. I waited, until the last forkful of dessert was eaten, until people started loosening their ties and smudging icing with cocktail napkins, until the music hit its peak. Then I stood. I walked straight through the kitchen past the bar out the side door. The night air was cool and still, the kind of quiet that hums in your ears. I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. One to the florist, one to the band, one to the bar manager. All polite. All final. No explanations needed. By the time I walked back into the hotel, things were already moving. Tomorrow's brunch? Cancelled. The late night music set? Pulled. The second bartender and custom cocktail menu? Gone. I'd been quiet long enough. Let them enjoy the leftovers. Let them feel what was missing. Let them whisper about what went wrong. I didn't care if they called me dramatic or petty or ungrateful. They had erased me. All I did was turn the page. Back in the hotel room, the air smelled faintly of rose lotion and something metallic. Stress, maybe. My skin. I sat cross-legged on the perfectly made bed, untouched since I checked in 2 nights ago. I hadn't cried. Not once. But something inside me had shifted, gone cold. Not frozen, frozen things shatter. No, I was solidifying. Hardening. The sun hadn't come up yet. I reached for my phone again. 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, over a dozen texts. "Jason, where are you? Why is brunch cancelled? Brooke. Mom, seriously, this isn't funny. Brooke again. I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? Please respond. This is so childish." Childish. I laughed, quietly, a soft breath through my nose. I opened the banking app. My fingers moved like they always had, muscle memory from 30 years of balancing checkbooks on Sundays. And the charges were still there. Unauthorized. Titled. Brooke had used my card for a pre-wedding bar crawl and a spa day with her bridal party. Champagne bottles. Manicures. Facials. Brunch for 8. All right there in the itemized charges. No one had asked. No one had even mentioned it. The trust one carried, warm and familiar like an old quilt, felt slashed to ribbons. Like someone had taken scissors to it in my sleep. I clicked over to my email. 2 new messages. Trevor, the florist. "We're disappointed by the sudden cancellation, but we understand. As per the contract, no refunds within 48 hours. Fine." The band's manager. "We were midway through setup when the cancellation came. It's unusual, but your message was clear. We'll leave the deposit untouched." Also fine. I wasn't doing this for money. This was for me. For the woman left in the kitchen chair. For the mother who was erased from her own son's wedding. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since the day before, but the idea of food made me nauseous. Instead, I pulled open the stiff curtains and watched the sunrise spill into the sky. First orange. Then pink. Then that soft pale yellow that makes everything look too perfect to be real. And suddenly I remembered something. A little red file folder tucked away in the bottom drawer of my dresser back home. Old legal papers. Letters I never threw away. I felt pulled to it like it had been whispering to me all along. I showered. I scrubbed the perfume and resentment from my skin. Dried my hair. Dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt that still smelled faintly of lavender detergent. Packed my things. Checked out of the hotel without a word. The drive home was quiet, just the hum of tires and the soft crackle of a radio playing songs I didn't recognize. That kind of drive where your own thoughts start to echo too loud to ignore. He didn't mention you. They saw where you were sitting. And no one said a thing. When I pulled into my driveway, the rose bushes I'd planted 2 summers ago were in full bloom. I didn't stop to admire them. I walked straight to the bedroom, opened the dresser and pulled out the red folder. I sat on the edge of the bed and began flipping through it. Old insurance forms, tax records, a few photographs I hadn't seen in years. And then I saw it. A letter. The envelope was yellowed at the corners, postmarked from Arizona. The date was written in my late husband's handwriting, the year he left. I remembered finding it weeks after he died. I hadn't opened it then. Couldn't. It had felt like letting him speak from the grave when I wasn't ready to listen. But now I slid my finger under the flap. The paper was thin. The handwriting, slanted and familiar. It started simply, "Linda, I know you never wanted to hear from me again. But there's something I need to tell you." I felt my pulse quicken. My hands trembled just enough to notice. "I've been carrying a secret and I can't take it to the grave. You deserve the truth. Jason isn't biologically yours." I stopped reading. The room swayed for a moment before settling again. I forced myself to keep going. Brooke was already pregnant when we got together. I thought I could pretend he was mine. But he's not. And neither of us ever told you. Apologies. Excuses. Regrets. Words that meant nothing now. Jason, my Jason, was the child of another woman. Left at my doorstep like a test I didn't know I was taking. And I passed. God help me, I passed. Every scraped knee. Every late night story. Every overtime shift I worked so he could have clean sneakers and school pictures. I passed with flying colors. And yet here I was. Discarded. Replaced. Erased. But now I had clarity, cold, sharp and blinding. And I was done bleeding for it. I didn't cry. Even as that letter shook in my lap, heavier than anything I'd ever held, I didn't shed a tear. What would be the point? Tears built Jason's childhood. Tears paid for his inhalers, his field trips, his first beat-up car. They soaked my pillow when Robert left. And again when Jason crossed that high school stage without so much as a glance in my direction. I'd run out of tears years ago. What I had now wasn't grief. It was something harder. Cleaner. Focused. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a black cup of coffee. Sat down by the window. Watched the neighbor's sprinkler tick rhythmically across their lawn. It was just another Sunday morning. But I was no longer the woman who bankrolled a fantasy and got a folding chair next to the punch bowl in return. Not anymore. I picked up my phone. First the florist. My voice calm, polite. I thanked them for their understanding. Confirmed again that Sunday's arrangements would no longer be needed. No explanation. I owed none. Next the band. Same tone. Same silence about the reason. Then the bar service. "Hi, this is Linda Monroe." "Yes, that's right. I'm calling to cancel the cocktail reception for the post-wedding brunch." "No issues. Just a change of heart. Thank you." 3 calls. 3 clean breaks. I could have left it at that. But I didn't. Because I knew what was coming. I powered off my phone. Waited 5 minutes. Turned it back on. 38 unread messages. 3 voicemails. "Jason, Mom, where are you? The band didn't show. What's going on?" "Karen, I don't know what's happening, but this is incredibly unprofessional. People are asking questions." "Brooke, Linda, seriously? Is this because of the seating?" "It's just petty. We had a vision. Don't ruin it." Petty. That word hit like a slap. Like a brand. Like all those years of sacrifice meant nothing. And still, when I closed my eyes, all I could see was Brooke's smug smile across the reception hall. She knew exactly where I was. Knew what she had done. Knew I wouldn't push back until now. I shut off the phone again. Let the chaos build without me. Let them figure it out. Let them feel it when the bar ran dry because I was the well. When the music stopped, because I was the final payment. When the flowers didn't arrive, because the roots had already rotted. I cleaned the kitchen. Wiped the counters. Fed the cat. It was the most peace I'd felt in months. Around noon the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. Let them knock. Let them sit in their own heat, their own guilt. That evening I posted one photo to Facebook. Not of the wedding. Not of myself. Just the check. The one I wrote for it all. Account number blurred. Signature clear. No caption. No explanation. Just the truth. And then I logged off. Not just from social media. From the guilt, the silence, the pretending. I didn't need their spin. Their excuses. Let them stew in what they made. I wasn't saving anyone from it. Then came the silence. No more calls. No more messages. Just stillness. Wide and strange, like the calm center of a storm hanging right over my roof. I could feel the tension building. The waiting. They didn't know what I'd do next. Neither did I. But whatever it was, it would be mine. Monday morning, I brewed coffee and sat by the window again. No earrings. No makeup. Just me, the hum of the refrigerator, and the truth. Jason hadn't called since Sunday. His last voicemail was clipped, defensive. You really made a scene, Mom. Everyone's talking. You embarrassed us. I don't know what you were trying to prove, but you crossed a line. I didn't flinch. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You can give someone everything, your time, your money, your love, and still be disposable. You can build their entire world and still be told you don't match the aesthetic. The betrayal didn't surprise me anymore. What surprised me was how little I cared now that I'd stopped begging for a seat at their table. That morning, I deleted Jason's contact. Not the number, just the name. I didn't need to forget him. I just didn't want to see his name light up my screen like it still had a right to be there. Around lunchtime, I left the house. Grocery store. Post office. Small errands. The world hadn't stopped. Life moved on. And in the bakery aisle of all places, I saw Melissa, my cousin who'd flown in for the wedding. She smiled when she spotted me, but there was hesitation in it. Linda, hey. I nodded. She stepped closer, voice lowered. Are you okay? I met her eyes. Were you okay? I asked. Watching me sit back there? She flushed. I didn't realize that was on purpose. I thought maybe. No, I cut in softly. You didn't think. That's all. A long pause. I'm sorry, she said finally. It was wrong. I should have said something. I nodded once. Thank you. She looked relieved, like that little sliver of accountability set her free. It didn't free me, but it was a start. When I got home, there was a bouquet sitting on the porch. Carnations. The cheap kind. Already wilting. No card. I didn't bring them inside. I dropped them straight in the trash. Later that night, I checked Facebook. The photo of the check had nearly 100 comments. Old friends, coworkers, neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were confused. Some were outraged. But most of them understood. One comment stood out. This broke my heart, Linda. I've never related to something so deeply. Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay quiet. That was it. Not revenge. Not spite. Power. Reclaimed. Let them fume in their group chats. Let them spin their version of the story. I wasn't answering. I wasn't explaining. I was choosing silence, not as surrender but as control. And this time the silence was mine. It started with the drawer. That old sticky one in the guest room that always needed a good hip bump to open. I wasn't even looking for anything, just clearing out clutter. The remnants of a life I'd been too exhausted to organize. But there was. That same red folder. The one I thought I'd emptied. Tucked deep in the sleeve, nearly part of the lining, was a second letter. No envelope. Folded twice. Handwritten. That same slanted script. My ex-husband's name at the bottom. Robert. It was dated 3 days before he died. Linda, if you're reading this, I guess the first letter reached you. I don't know if you opened it. I hope you did. I won't waste time apologizing again. I need to tell you something more. Something I couldn't take with me. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Jason wasn't just another man's son. He was never supposed to be yours at all. When Brooke left him with me, she didn't want to keep him. She was 18. She asked me to put him up for adoption. I couldn't. I didn't have the heart. I lied to you. I told you he was ours. That it was just a mistake from before we got married. You believed me. You raised him. You loved him like he was your own flesh and blood. But the truth is, he wasn't even that. He was a stranger's child. And you made him your whole world anyway. I don't know how you'll feel reading this, but God, I hope you know, whatever else I did wrong, I was right about choosing you. You were the only person strong enough to be his mother. Not because of blood. Because of who you are. I didn't move. The words just pressed on my chest like a stone. Not biologically mine. Not even accidentally mine. Chosen. by a man who gave me a child and then disappeared like he was doing me a favor. For the first time in days my breath caught. My knees went soft. I sat at the edge of the bed, the letter still in my hand. 1,000 memories flashed behind my eyes. The first time I rocked Jason to sleep, his tiny fists curled under his chin. His first word, truck. The fever that scared me so badly I drove barefoot through snow to the ear. That volcano science project he cried over when it wouldn't erupt. His first real heartbreak. His joy when he got into college. Every moment I thought was ours. I had built my entire life around that boy. My identity, my routines, my choices. Everything shaped by motherhood. And now I had to face what no mother should ever have to. He never truly saw me that way. He loved what I gave him, not who I was. If he had, he never would have let Brooke stick me in that kitchen. He never would have stayed quiet. He never would have let them erase me. I laid the letter down, smoothing it out with the palm of my hand. It didn't feel like betrayal anymore. It felt like truth. Like freedom. For 62 years I lived as a version of myself built for others. Wife, mother, provider, background shadow. But that truth staring back at me in faded ink showed me something new. I had a power I didn't even realize. Because I chose to stay. When others ran. I built a family even when it wasn't written in blood. And I could choose again starting now. I left the letter on the kitchen table. Didn't lock it away. Didn't hide it. Just let it sit there. Visible. Like a truth I didn't have to be ashamed of anymore. I walked through my house like I was seeing it for the first time. Beige walls. Faded photos from Jason's high school graduation. That dent in the doorframe from when he tried to ride his bike inside. I used to smile at that dent. Now I just looked. This house was a museum of sacrifices. The old armchair where I nursed him. The sewing kit I used to hem his pants. The pantry still stocked with his favorite cereal, Honey Bunches of Oats, even though I stopped liking it years ago. It hit me like a punch. I didn't even know what my favorite cereal was. I couldn't remember the last book I read that wasn't a parenting guide or some hospital policy manual. I didn't remember the last thing I bought just for me. I had lived so long being his mother I forgot how to be me. I poured a glass of water, sat on the couch. The silence had changed. It wasn't empty. It was honest. My phone buzzed. A long message this time. A softer tone. I don't know what happened. I've been thinking about everything. Brooke says she didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry if you felt excluded. If I felt. Not because we excluded you. Not because we left you behind. Still about him. His comfort. His distance from blame. I didn't reply. Instead I picked up the remote. Turned on the TV. A cooking show hummed in the background. Ordinary. I looked back at the letter. Jason wasn't mine. Not by blood. Not by law. But I was his. Until the moment he made it clear. I wasn't part of the future he was building. The ache wasn't for him anymore. It was for the woman I left behind to raise a boy who never once asked, "Are you okay, Mom?" All those birthdays I made magical. All those Christmas Eves I stayed up past midnight wrapping dollar store gifts in perfect bows. All those, "you sit, I'll do the dishes," kind of days that never came. I had been his background music. His backup plan. His silence. But not anymore. That evening I took every photo of us off the wall. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. Because it was time. Time to stop living in a shrine to a version of motherhood that demanded I disappear. I boxed them gently. Wrapped the frames in old towels. Labeled the box. Memories, not obligations. Then I cooked dinner. Just for me. A lemon butter pasta I once saw on a travel show. Roasted cherry tomatoes. Garlic. No chicken nuggets. No mac and cheese. Just what I wanted. I lit a candle. Played soft jazz. Set the table for one. It was quiet. But not empty. It sounded like something I hadn't heard in years. Myself. Later I started writing names. Not with glitter pens. No gold-foiled cards. Just a yellow notepad and a good pen. Names of people I wanted around my table. Claire from the air. She used to sneak coffee into my locker during doubles. Mr. Henderson, my neighbor who always cleared my driveway before I could. Dina from the bookstore who actually listens when she asks how I am. Nurse Janet who stayed late on her birthday just to help me cover a shift. None of them shared my blood. But everyone had seen me, really seen me, in a way Jason never did. This wasn't a wedding. Not a holiday. Just dinner. At my table. With my food. No folding chairs. No kitchen doors shutting me out. I spent the next few days getting ready, not to impress anyone but because I wanted to. For the first time in decades, I wasn't preparing something for someone else's moment. This one was mine. I picked out fresh ingredients myself: basil, garlic, heirloom tomatoes. Not a single frozen appetizer tray. I bought a new tablecloth, blue with sunflowers. It reminded me of something I would have loved when I was 20, before all the shoulds closed in like bricks. That morning I woke up early. Turned on Van Morrison, then Stevie Nicks, then Norah Jones. My house smelled like lemon zest and olive oil. Warm. Like home. Claire was the first to arrive, just before 6. A bottle of red in one hand, a huge smile on her face. "You look amazing, Linda." And I did. My hair was soft, gray at the temples, loose and confident. I wore a linen blouse that felt cool against my skin. No Spanx. No mascara waiting to run. Just me. They arrived one by one. 6 guests. Laughter at the door. Hugs that lasted too long. Wine poured without asking. We sat at the table I once used to fold laundry and help with math homework. Now it held shared dishes, napkins dabbed mid-laugh, and my favorite pasta. I laughed too. Really laughed. Bad first dates came up. Petty crimes confessed. Someone stole a pen from the bank every week just to be difficult. And between dessert and second helpings it hit me. This was family. Not assigned. Chosen. Not performance. Presence. Toward the end of the night, under string lights I hung myself. Claire raised her glass. "To Linda," she said. "For being the kind of woman who reminds us it's never too late to take your seat at the head of your own table." Glasses clinked. I smiled. Braced mine too. To finally being seen. The knock came just after noon. Not loud. Not frantic. Just steady, like he knew I was home and he wasn't leaving. I stood barefoot in the hallway watching the shadow through the frosted glass. 7 days since the wedding. 7 days of silence from me. 7 days unraveling him. I opened the door. He looked the same but not really. The suit was gone. So was the glow. Just a wrinkled t-shirt. Dark circles. His mouth moved like he had 10 different ways to start this conversation, then forgot them all. "Hi, Mom." I didn't say it back. I stepped aside. Let him in. He paused, then walked in slowly. The house was clean. Quiet. Sunlight painted the hardwood floor. And on the mantel the photos were gone. Every last one of him. He noticed. His eyes flicked toward the empty space. Jason stood in my doorway asking where the pictures were. I didn't answer. I told him to sit. He wanted explanations, not accountability. So I gave him a box, receipts, records, and finally the letter from his father. He read it. He looked shaken. "You knew?" he asked. "I do now," I said. He tried to blame it on Brooke, on the photos, on assumptions. I cut him off. "I'm not angry you're not my biological son. I'm angry that I gave you everything, and when the moment came to honor me, you stayed silent." I handed him the box. "These are yours now. Every reminder of what you chose to overlook." At the door he hesitated. "You always said I was your whole world." "You were," I said. "And now I'm finally mine." I closed the door. Inside my house was warm with laughter. My friends, chosen not inherited, passed plates, poured wine, and raised their glasses. "To choosing yourself," Claire said. "To giving only to those who give back." I stood and toasted too. To the women who gave everything and were told it wasn't enough. To the ones asked to sit in the kitchen after building the whole damn house. May we never sit down again unless it's at the head of our own table. Jason never called again. And I didn't need him to. The next morning I drank my coffee on the porch, robe fluttering in the breeze. The roses I planted bloomed wildly. I wasn't anyone's backdrop anymore. I was the main character. And for the first time in my life. That was enough.